This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, Omar. We are still waiting on Jay, and Mr. Rodriguez had said that he would be attending as well, so I don't know if he's on the call yet.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Jay, last time I spoke to him last week, he said he was joining.
Okay.
Hopefully he'll join sometime soon. I do see two people.
Good morning, everybody. This is Sal Masood.
Hey, Sal.
Hi.
So let's see, we've got, so far we have Omar, Dave, Javier. Is Javier on here yet?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Javier. We have Gilbert, we have Jeff, and we have Sal. Okay. Richard, as I, so Richard actually, Richard Baggins is actually finishing up his meeting with another water planning group. So he may not be joining us from the beginning. So we may have to hold off on some of the items that we wanted to get clarification from him on, or possibly make a few rearrangements on the agenda until we allow him to join us. So I do see that Jay is here with us now as well.
Good morning, how are you?
Good morning. Okay. So if I can, Omar, it's 10:33. We can go ahead and and start the meeting if you'd like. When we get into our quorum, I can see that our voting members, I can see who are present from our voting members, but I'll ask if I can get a confirmation from our non-voting members just to make sure that I'm not missing anyone.
Sounds good. Then let's get started. So welcome everybody to what is it, our third flood planning group meeting. We have a pretty busy agenda today, so we're hoping to move it along nicely. I do have a troublesome connection, so if I do get disconnected, if Mr. Bennett, if you can take over with the chair's duties, please.
Of course.
And so agenda item number 1, I'm gonna call to order. You said we started at 10:33, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then number 2, recognition of guests other than our voting members. Can you please identify the non-voting members?
Yes, okay, so do we have James Weaver? Okay, how about Tim Freer is not going to be available. Larissa Place? Ben Wild?
Here.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Let me put you down as a yes. And Sarah Douglas?
Here.
Thank you, Sarah. And Anita Keese, I think I saw you come in.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. And then do we have anyone else present from the Water Development Board? Okay. All right. And then for those who are joining us from the public, if you can perhaps just edit your name and put your organization, if you haven't done so already, that way I can make sure that I capture you as attending on our minutes for this meeting. Thank you. Okay, so Omar, we're good with our non-voting and our voting members as well.
Got it. And then just as a last opportunity, if anybody joins us by phone, would you please at this time state your name and organization, please? Okay. So agenda item number 3, member updates. I'll get started. We did meet all of the chairs of the flood planning groups with the TWDB. We got an opportunity for about a good hour to exchange ideas and let everybody know where they stand by in their flood groups. And so I will say we're in good shape. There's some groups, especially down in South Texas near the coast, that are moving very rapidly. Some groups have not even established a chair. They haven't even selected a chair yet, so they've selected a temporary chair. But everybody seems to be moving along nicely. My understanding is that nobody has yet selected a consultant to work on the flood planning group. I'm sorry, on the flood plan itself. And so that was one of the biggest questions. What kinds of qualifications do we need for a suitable subcontractor on this project? Also, we talked about how to get better representation from more rural areas or areas that just simply don't have I guess a staffing capacity to send into the flood planning group. And so that was pretty much it in a nutshell. It was a very productive conversation. We did connect nicely with all the other chairs, and there's several of these meetings planned, and also meetings where we'd like to invite other flood plan members to discuss with each other. So for example, electricity generating or environmental interest group members representing these groups talking across the state with each other so that we can learn what's worked on one side of the state and what has not worked on the other side of the state. So more to come from that. Also, we like it happened with some of us. I know some of us in my conversation with you all, we received contacts, phone calls, emails from different engineering firms interested in becoming the subcontractor to work on the flood plan. And so this pretty much happened all throughout the state. And so we discussed, I guess, what best practices are, what kinds of things we would be looking for in terms of selecting a subcontractor. And then finally, there were special, I guess, flood management strategies that weren't necessarily considered throughout the planning process when we were considering legislation and first setting up these flood planning groups. We're talking like temporary flood mitigation infrastructure, something that can hold off high tides or expected high river flows, and the vendors that provide these kinds of equipment and how that plays into the flood planning process. Essentially, the flood planning process pretty much prioritizes permanent or semi-permanent infrastructure, and so temporary infrastructure is not really something that came across in the current legislation and language in flood planning. And so that was pretty much the gist of that conversation, and more to come. It was just the first meeting. We're hoping to meet every quarter, and as usual, I'll update you all on that regard. Anybody else have anything to share?
It does not look like that, Omar. And Richard's joined us now, so thanks, Richard.
Sorry for being late.
Not a problem. You're a very busy man. Anyone else from the planning group would want to make an update, voting or non-voting, or from the public? Okay, Omar. There is not any other notation, though, so we can go ahead and move to the next agenda if you'd like.
Item number 4, review and approve the minutes for the meeting held on January 21, 2021.
I have 2 corrections to the minutes,
Okay.
or recommended corrections. In item number 14, line 2 of the narrative, it says she can create a list serve. That should be served with a D.
Okay.
And in number 15, the first line ends in the word do. That should be dues, D-U-E-S.
Okay.
Other than that, there's one thing that I want to note, I guess, while we're looking at the minutes, and that is up in item 11. You made a comment that you would bring back additional information at the next meeting for this initiative on the public website, and we did not have that on our agenda. I guess later on I can suggest that we add that to the future agenda, and I'll do that. I'll remind you when we get to item 12.
Okay. Will do. And I do have an update, but I'll go ahead and we'll wait till we get to that. Yes, sir.
Quick input on the term list serve. That's the electronic mailing list. It's actually LISTSERV in one word, and so it still needs to be corrected.
Oh, so it's not 2 words, it's 1 word?
Yes.
Okay, so take the space out then and get rid of the D. All right. Sorry. I was trying to figure out how to read that.
James Weaver just contacted me. He's on a link, and apparently he's the only person there.
James Weaver?
Yeah.
Okay, let me send him the link right now. Can you respond to him and tell him that I'm emailing it right now to him?
Yep. Already sent it.
All right, great. Thank you.
That's a new word for me, Omar. I'm going to have to look it up.
Okay, so then do we have with those corrections then? Was that going to be a motion, Dave, with the corrections?
He's muted. I move to approve the minutes as presented with proposed changes.
I'll
Is that
second.
Okay, we have a first and a second.
Omar, was that Sal who made the motion?
It was Jay.
Oh, Jay, okay.
Okay, with first and second, any other comments? All right, if that's the case, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Item number 5, review and approve recommendations from the executive committee members for the required member positions for river authorities and water utilities.
And yes, and for the general membership, we do have 2 nominations. The first is from Isela Dagnino with the El Paso Water Utilities. She is their engineering division manager. And then we also have a nomination from Levi Bryant, who is an engineer in training. He's the water resources and land development engineer with the engineering firm of Landgraf, Kretcher and Associates in Odessa.
And so,
Omar,
did everybody get a? Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Omar. I'm sorry.
Okay, so prior to this meeting, we had an executive committee meeting where we discussed both applicants, and so what was determined was that both applicants are very competitive, and my understanding was that it was an agreement that we'd like to find a way to include both of them as part of the flood planning group. However, because we need to make one selection today, the executive committee recommended Gisela Dangino from El Paso Water Utilities. And then with the understanding that we were going to talk with Richard from the TWDB to find opportunities and options to bring in Mr. Levi Bryant into the group. And so did you want to have that conversation now, or did you want to bring it to the vote at this time? And then I'm wondering if either Gisela or Levi are on the call today.
They are not on the call today. I think that the thought was to go ahead and see if there would be motions to be made for Ms. Dagnino, and then we would talk about Mr. Bryan when we talk about amending the bylaws.
Understood.
Also move to accept Gisela Dagnino.
Second.
Okay, with the first and second, any further discussion?
And she's for which position are you filling with her?
Water utilities?
Okay.
And
Any
I'm sorry,
further discussion, questions?
who made the second, Omar?
I did. Gilbert.
Gilbert. Okay, thank you, Gilbert.
Welcome.
Okay, so with the first and the second said and no further comments, all in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed? All right, motion passes. And then Annette, if you'll please bring an update the group on the position for river authorities.
Yes.
Omar, is it appropriate for us to talk to Richard at this point about how we add Levi Bryant as a voting member, an additional voting member for water utilities?
My understanding was that we were going to bring that up on the agenda item where we consider changes to the bylaws. However, we can discuss it now if you wish.
Just I'm fine.
Richard, one of the things that I noticed in the bylaws, which we need to get clarification on, I guess, is down under paragraph 4.2. It says adding any new voting position that increases the total number of voting positions may only occur upon a 2/3 vote of all existing voting positions. Is that all that's necessary for us to add a voting member, or do we have to do some advertising per the information up in paragraph 4.1?
Yep, you have to have the position posted and position posted for 30 to 45 days, the vacancy for a voting member, and it to vote to actually create the position of water utilities needs a 14-day public notice. So it will be a little bit of time before he can actually join on as an official capacity. So at this point, you do need to discuss if you want to add a voting position called water utilities. At your next meeting, you would have to vote on whether you want to add or not, and that would need a 14-day posting. And then you need to solicit open wide applications to everybody to fill that position, but he can be one of them. And if you so recommend to the full group, you can as the executive committee.
So that's a lot more involved than I had thought in terms of the timeline. So if we, and is that the same route for the non-voting members as well, Richard?
The non-voting members don't need a public vacancy posting at all, no. Especially unless it's for a general. Give me a second. I'm unsure about the non-voting one in terms of if it needs that entire public posting period. But still, if you want to add a non-voting position, you would still need to discuss it here today, but you can't vote on it until it has a 14-day public notice. Because when you're increasing the number of any members or decreasing and get rid of positions, that needs 14-day public notice.
And another question that we were going to raise with you in terms of the membership is, I realize now under the first set of minutes that it does show vacancy for flood districts. So in addition to the river authority that has a vacancy, we could also fill the flood district. Is that correct?
You could fill the flood districts at your first or second meeting. That question was posed, and it, as far as I remember in the meeting, it was decided that the flood districts interest category was not represented in your region because there are nobody could find any flood districts that had authority. If you guys so choose that interest category can be represented in your region, yes, you can fill it.
And so if we don't find anyone and it's going to continuously be vacant, is the suggestion that we remove that membership, or we're not allowed because that's part of the interest category?
It's technically, as long as you guys identify that interest category cannot be represented, it's no longer part of your total member count at all now. Does that answers that? You can, if you feel that you have somebody that can represent all flood districts throughout the entire region, yes, you can fill it. There's one other region that I know of that also has that issue where they didn't have any interest category from flood districts, and they decided not to fill it. So they're at 11 members instead of 12.
Okay. And then just as a clarification, your definition of a flood district is going to, what are the qualifying factors?
What we did in terms of identifying the interest category was TCEQ has a list of all like drainage districts, etc., and none of those were found within the Upper Rio Grande region. I am pulling up the rules right now, and I'll get back to you in a second.
Okay, no problem. So I guess for the group, Chairman Martinez, if you all want to have a discussion on that as he's looking, as Richard's looking for some more information, what are your initial thoughts on this flood district? And I apologize that it's a Groundhog Day. We've already had the discussion before, but if we can repeat, that'd be great.
So my only thoughts is, why don't we have a flood district in Region 14? I mean, I know that El Paso Waterfront fills a storm. They call it a stormwater district, and I'm not sure if it's semantics or the legal structure is different. Does anybody have an answer to that?
Yeah, so I found it. I'm gonna pop it in the chat from the rules. Flood districts are defined as any authorities particularly with flood management responsibilities, including drainage districts, levee improvement districts, and does not include river authorities. So that's, if you feel that that interest category can be represented in your region, yes, you can fill it. If you guys feel that that interest category does not exist in your region, you guys can say that it does not exist and it will not be part of your member count. You guys are a special group because there's only 3 positions in all of the regions that have something like this.
Well, we can be special, right? So I don't know, Javier, if I don't know if you looked in the chat of what Richard put in, but does this information, is this representative of what Isela does?
Well, I think Isela represents the water utility, but I think Mr. Bryan, it might be applicable to his region and his area. But yeah, I think it would be applicable to the city of El Paso because we do flood management here also.
Okay.
I mean, this is Sal Masood. The closest that would be one agency that deals with all flooding areas, that would be the IBWC, because they deal with the county, they deal with the surrounding cities, the entire, Upper Rio Grande and Lower Rio Grande, the boundary commission. And that would that fall under river authorities? That's a question.
In our last meeting, we determined that yes, IBWC would fall under river authority.
And do we have somebody from their side to fill that position on the river?
We've reached out to IBWC, and the response I got from one of their staffers was they're going to wait until the new administration brings in whoever the leadership at IBWC before they consider our request.
Okay, who did you reach out to? I'm sorry asking.
Give me 1 second. 2 people. One is to, hold on, I'm just looking up her last name. I first reached out to Rosalba Montes, and then she connected me with Xochitl Aranda.
Okay,
and
yes. Okay.
And my understanding is that Xochitl will remain as chief of the operations at chief of operations at maintenance division at BWC.
Okay. I'm familiar with Xochitl. Okay. I will try to talk to someone from the IBWC to see if and when they can fill out that position for us. But would that also suffice for a flood district, or is that a special something that the Upper Rio Grande just doesn't have?
I guess it's kind of left up it's our interpretation, but the reason why I had asked if we would want to eliminate that is just because if with the Open Meetings Act, whether you have that position filled or not, that's going to go against your quorum. So if we're never going to have it filled, that's why I thought there might be the possibility of removing it. But and Richard can correct me if I'm not explaining this clearly. If we, for these positions, do these people have knowledge of these interest categories and the group is satisfied with the knowledge base that they have and what they can assist with in these efforts, then that in itself would qualify them to be representing a flood district. So am I saying that correctly, Richard?
I would defer to you, yes. As long as by rule, if you have a person that can represent those interests, I don't have any more legal clarification than that. But if you don't have somebody, again, you don't have to remove it from your bylaws at all. Just have an official statement saying in your meeting minutes saying you guys have not found this interest category to be represented in your region.
So those are our options, Chair Martinez with regard to flood districts. I don't know if we want to, get some finality on this, or do we want to think about it some more? So Omar might be out of reception since he's still on mute. Jeff, what do you think about that?
I think the closest we have to a levy district is the IBWC, and I think going. I also think, I wonder if we remove the position because we don't have anybody to fill it right now, or we're worried about quorum, can we put it back with a simple vote, or is that, how difficult is it to do all that?
That's what I'm saying. Don't remove it from your bylaws because technically it's still required. But all when we were creating and pulling the initial members, we found that suffices. It's just a statement saying we did not find and this interest category represented and are not filling it at this time.
And then it would not count against our quorum that way?
Nope. So you would be 11 out of 11 members instead of 12 towards all of your quorum counts.
I would suggest we just leave it as is, and maybe IBWC will step up in the next year or so, next 6 months or whatever.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion on that?
So what I could do is on the minutes, I can make that statement that Richard had provided us, that this is the statement, the official statement from the flood planning group in terms of flood districts. Is that okay with you all?
It's okay with me.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm back on the call. Sorry about that.
Okay, so then
and then if you're done with that, back to the water utilities, and I forget Brian, what was the resolution on that, or what was clarification needed?
I've got a question I need to ask in relation to Mr. Bryan. It's something I just thought about. If the company that he represents happens to be bidding for the contract for us, is there a preclusion of him being a voting member?
Yes, there is official conflict of interest that the TWDB has posted on our FAQ page. So if a voting member works for the company that is applying for the contract in the same region, yes, there's a conflict of interest. And we've had, in my other region 3, we had that member resign because their company was going for the contract and did get the contract. If the voting member works for the company and that company is going for a different region, that's fine. But if it's the same member, same region, that is a conflict of interest.
I guess we need to hold off on any decision with him then until we find out who responds to the proposal.
That's a good point.
Okay.
that makes things a lot more clear.
Yeah, my apologies. I just happened to think about that.
It's a good
Good
point.
thing you brought it up.
Yeah, I would have brought that up in the executive meeting, but I didn't think about it till just now.
Okay, so then
All
Omar,
right then.
we can go on to the next agenda item if you'd like then.
So item number 6, TWDB updates and presentation. All yours, Richard.
Right. I don't have a presentation for you guys today, but a few updates is that we are working with Annette and Rio Grande COG executing our grant agreement contracts. So that's on track, and we're starting in our final stages of last minute edits, and we're routing it internally now, and then we'll pass it off to Rio Grande COG to execute. So that is going on. Let me get my meeting notes up. As you, we've talked several times about the scope of work, and I don't think I've given this group the presentation yet. We can talk about that later. But the guidance document is forthcoming. So the scope of work is kind of the broad 10 tasks that you all will be completing over this planning cycle. And then this guidance document that we talk about, or technical guidance, is the nitty-gritty details of every single task and all the assumptions made and all the numbers throughout the entire planning cycle. So that's over a 100-page document. We've had our external technical advisory group give comments, and we're making those edits to the document right now. And we'll be sending it out soon, within the next week, for public comment. So you guys will get a blast email about that. And if you're involved in very technical flood work, we encourage you to read through it and give public comment feedback on that. And that will be largely geared toward your technical consultant. And if you're technically inclined, feel free to read through it. But if you're not technically inclined, your scope of work is definitely your best guide throughout this entire process as a simplified item list. Liaisons, regions across the state are selecting liaisons. Today, I believe Region 15 has sent up a liaison up here to Region 14. They will become a non-voting member on your Region 14. The purpose of the liaisons is 1, to listen, and 2, to advocate. So they're listening to what you guys are doing, and then they can advocate for Lower Rio Grande conflicts or any things that they need to advocate for. And so when you guys select your region for the Upper Rio, you will send somebody over to be a non-voting member on the Lower Rio to advocate for you guys, as well as to listen and bring back information here to the Upper Rio group. And that is all the updates I have for now. Does anybody have any questions regarding grant contracts, scope of work, guidance document? Anything else?
Thank you, Richard. All right, then. Item number 7, consider designating a liaison from Region 15, Lower Rio Grande Regional Flood Planning Group, to serve as a non-voting member as required by, and then the number of Texas Administrative Code. Any volunteers?
So Chairman Martinez, this is just obviously a nice segue into what Richard was explaining to us. You would be, whoever would want to serve as that liaison, they will be participating in their meetings, Lower Rio Grande, and that is encompassing obviously just that, the lower part. So we're looking at, I don't know how many counties they serve, but Richard, I would think that it's probably less than what our composition is. I'm guessing, but just to give you all a little bit of an idea of where this is located. But we do need someone to either be either self-nominated or someone else can be nominated.
Hi, this is Sarah Douglas. I would self-nominate. I'm a non-voting member, but if that's okay, I wouldn't mind self-nominating.
Okay,
Awesome.
that's exciting.
Sarah, where are you from?
I live in Austin. I'm at the GLO, and I do quite a bit of work with the folks down there. So I already have some contact with them. I think it might be a good idea for me to be the liaison.
Richard, I assume there's compensation for whoever does this for travel?
That is up to the budget that Annette had put forward by the sponsor. That's all.
Because they're going to have meetings as often as we do, and you're talking about a monthly travel then.
And that would be the case for anyone who would be designated, right? So we do have, we did set aside a significant, I think it's a significant amount of money for travel related costs. So
All right.
that would be an allowable reimbursement.
What do you do, Sarah?
Pardon me?
And
Go ahead, Omar.
just a quick question. My internet cut off again. Is somebody that's a non-voting member allowed to serve under this rule? And if it's allowed, I have no problem with having Sarah do it.
Right now, off the top of my head, I don't see any issue with it, and I don't think there's anything precluding that from happening. I am chatting my team real fast just to confirm, but as of right now, I don't think so, but I'll get a.
And I'm so sorry about this. I had to step away. I had a maintenance guy come to my door, but I might have missed this. So it's not, I wouldn't be able to do a virtual. I wouldn't be able to participate virtually in their meetings.
Well, you could until that provision is lifted, and then it's going to be required that we.
Right. So, yeah, but still, I don't know if we have anyone who lives down there right now, so I'd still be happy to do it.
I think at this point, you're probably still closer than most of us who are on this screen.
Yeah, I mean, I do travel there for work already, so, and I usually, it's like a 6-hour drive, so.
Mind me asking, where do they meet, the lower Rio Grande?
Right now, what everyone's doing it virtual still. I don't know where they will end up holding their meetings. I can tell you their sponsor real fast, and that may give you an indication.
LRGD.
Their sponsor is the Hidalgo County Drainage District.
So that's still a good ways away from El Paso. I don't know how far it is from Austin, though.
Like 6 hours.
Wow. I think I'm the same like Omar. If the bylaws allow a non-voting member to be a liaison, I have no issues having Sarah do that as well.
Yep.
I feel the same way.
I'm chatted with my team, and we don't see any issue with a non-voting member. You can select any non-voting member, and as well, just offering an option. Again, as long as they're holding virtual, Sarah, is welcome to do it if you guys so choose. And if there is a travel issue, you guys could change liaisons as needed. Whoever could travel once in person, if they're not holding any mixed media meetings.
Do we need a motion to designate Sarah Douglas?
Yes.
I make a motion to designate. Sorry, this is Sal Masood. I make a motion to designate Sarah. What is Sarah's last name?
Douglas.
Douglas to be the liaison for Region 15 Lower Rio Grande Regional Floodplain Group.
A second.
Second.
Okay, second Jay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thanks, Sarah.
No problem, happy to do it.
Okay, item number 8, consideration of appropriate changes to the Region 14 bylaws. Annette?
Yes, sir. So I'll go ahead and bring them up. I know that one item that I had talked about with Richard prior that could help us move the process along specifically for nominations is that we can remove the section that talks about waiting 10 days after you receive the nominations for the executive committee to review. And so that's one section that I think that we would want to look at to see if we could remove that. And so I'm going to pull it up right now so you all can see what I'm talking about. It's let's see. Okay, so it's going to be right here. So this is talking about what we had discussed previously in terms of potentially opening up our membership, where we would have to have the nomination on our website, send out our emails to the county clerks, and also make that available anywhere between 30 to 45 calendar days from the date the public notice was posted. And then after that, the executive committee could not review those nominations until 10 days after it was received. So we could, and Richard, if I may ask, I would assume that we could just exclude this sentence to where we no longer are having to adhere to the 10 days. Is that what you have seen perhaps from other planning groups, if they've done that already?
Off the top of my head, I believe one has, but the reason why you are allowed to remove that is because it's not in rules at all. It was just kind of like the standard bylaws that we came up with based on water plannings. So if that clause doesn't work for you, you're welcome to remove that little clause. I would still recommend to keep the executive committee shall recommend a nominee and just remove the no sooner than 10 days, if that's the way you guys so choose.
So that's one possibility of making a revision to the bylaws. The other one that I think would be prudent to revisit is whether you all want to extend or open up your membership. The way that Richard explained to us earlier, it is there is some time involved in making that possible. So if there is interest, I think that we should look at that now, because that way we can go ahead and get the process moving along. If you perhaps wanted another member from any of the interest categories that we have, and I'm just going to pull that up real quick. So we have, just as a reminder, our interest categories include agricultural interests, counties, electric generating utilities, environmental interests, industries, municipalities, public, river authorities, small business, and water districts, as well as water utilities. So are there any, right now we have one person representing each of those categories with the exception of river authority and flood districts. And so are you all interested in extending your membership? If that's the case, then we would do that. We could look to, we just need confirmation if our bylaws allow us to do that now as they stand, or do we need to make any revisions to the bylaws to increase that membership?
Hey, Richard, I understood that that we had the authority in accordance with the bylaws to add up to 18 voting members. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So technically you guys aren't allowed to take an action item to increase the number today. So this is just discussion, but essentially gearing it up to put it as an action item on your next meeting.
Okay, and if we wanted to have more than one representative as a voting member for a subject area, that would also be addressed in the same manner?
Yes, sir. Because that's increasing the number of representation, and we have had several regions do that. Several regions have had added a second counties, a second agriculture, a second municipalities. But I will emphasize that They did that for more geographical representation. I will emphasize that as a voting member of your interest category, the idea is that you're supposed to represent that interest category for the entire region. But again, several regions have added duplicate voting members.
And
so-
are there any changes in the bylaws to allow that to happen then, other than what's written there already?
Yep, there is provisions to allow it to happen about if a new voting position is created. And so it's just classified as a new voting position.
Okay, so no changes have to be made to accommodate that. Okay.
No changes to the bylaws to accommodate adding a new member, no.
Okay.
So you can see my angle, Dave. I keep trying to find a way to make it less days for review, but I'm probably, I need to move on from that, right? So so then if that's the case, and we can talk about agenda items that we want to have for the next meeting, that could be a possible one if you all do want to extend the membership. But from staff's point of view, then the only possible recommendation that I see for the bylaws to be amended is that 10 days. But if you all want to wait on that and leave it as is for now, it's not obviously going to be extremely harmful to us to keep it like that. So I leave it back. I'll leave it up to you all to decide whether you want to leave the bylaws alone for this round.
Well, why don't we make the correction that we know we need right now?
Okay, can we entertain a motion then?
I'd like to so move from comma, no sooner than 10 calendar days after the deadline for submitting nominations, comma, be removed.
I
Second.
second that.
Second by Sal Masood. Any further comments? All right, those in agreement, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right.
So item number 9, schedule pre-planning meeting as required by the TWDB. Annette?
Yes, and Richard had presented this agenda item to us, I believe at our last meeting. We are required to have a pre-planning meeting, and this is an opportunity to inform the public of what the flood planning process is about, what are the expectations. And so we do have to post that 14 days in advance. And so what many, or I think most of the flood planning groups have done is they have had this meeting in conjunction with their regularly scheduled meeting. So that's an option that we can do, or we can have it as a standalone and just, I would go ahead and facilitate that meeting in case there's anyone from the public who would want to log in and hear about what it is that we're doing with flood planning. So, Richard, is there anything else that I missed on that item?
The idea, yeah, just the idea of a pre-planning meeting. It's also over in water planning at the beginning of each cycle. They are required to have it, and so over here in flood planning, it's the same. Since this is our first cycle, the idea is just to have it somewhere in the beginning as soon as possible and geared toward the public, meaning potential. The basic requirement is just having it as an agenda item, allowing for public comment at a meeting. Other regions have done more solicited outreach to try to get more members to attend, and for you guys to listen to members of the public about just kind of where they want to see you guys take the regional flood plan for the Upper Rio Grande. And I do have a short, I think it's like a 5 to 10 minute presentation that kind of gives the overview for the public about what the regional flood planning process is that I could give, and that's it. No regions have had a standalone meeting yet, but it's been a varying degree of if people just post it as an agenda item versus additional outreach.
And I'm okay with having it as an agenda item. I don't know what you all think.
Concur.
So that would just mean that just we add it as an agenda item and we post that on the website, and that's all that addresses that need.
Yes, sir. With the 14-day notice, which you can do at the same time as increasing your number of voting members with a 14-day notice. So that meeting.
What does additional outreach look like at some of those other with some of those other groups?
They've emailed additional stakeholders throughout the region, whether more cities, posted it more on, technically public posting only has to be on a website and the Secretary of State's page. They will send it out to all the county clerks. They will send it out to additional consultant firms. It's just emailing all involved stakeholders within the region.
I think one of the weaknesses of the water planning process is that the public hasn't really paid attention, and some of that is their own fault, and some of that maybe is we should take responsibility for it. So I like the idea of additional outreach. I just don't know that it would be actually all that helpful. I would like to think about that some.
And one thing that I could offer up is, since there are so many more counties that that are in this flood planning group as opposed to our water planning, I could see if perhaps I can attend their city council or commissioners meeting just to remind them that we're there, what our schedule looks like, and just again let them know of what is happening with the flood planning. And I know that that's 23 counties, but I think that I probably could get one meeting in a week with commissioners court, and then looking at city council. So that's something I can take a look into if you all would like for me to do.
Yes, and then if you need additional staff, please count on me and anybody else that wants to maybe help you facilitate this process as well. I'm happy to join or travel to some of these municipalities as needed, as counties as needed.
Okay. All right. Well, I can start looking at that schedule, at least virtually for sure. That would be the quickest way, and then we can go from there. So then if we do, so then I think that what we can do with this one is we can schedule our pre-planning meeting once we decide on our next meeting. I think that we're probably gonna, I don't know if with Richard's assistance, he'll help us determine if we need to meet earlier than 14 days from now, but we need to give me a little bit of room so I can put this together, get the agenda together, and then we have to post that. So just remember that we've got that 14-day requirement. So we can decide on when we want to have this meeting when we look at the next scheduled meeting, if you would like.
I think that works. Do you need any, like a vote or any action on allowing you to schedule, or are we good with just this agreement?
Richard, would you like for us to have on record that we'll schedule? I'm sorry, go ahead. Someone's speaking.
The agenda is technically set by the chair. So technically you can have a motion if you wish, but I don't think it's needed since the chair sets the agenda.
Okay. That'll work.
Okay. All right, so that's that. Item number 10, update on request for qualifications for technical consultant. Annette?
Yes, just wanted to update the group on our RFQ for technical consultant. The proposals are due this Friday at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So for those of you who are Central Time, you've got an extra hour, so to speak. The executive committee will be reviewing those proposals and scoring those proposals as well on April the 6th. We will be meeting at 9:30 Mountain Time, 10:30 Central Daylight Saving Time. So that's the update in terms of the RFQ for technical consultant. And then I don't know if, again, I'll ask Richard for some assistance on making sure that we line up with the anticipated timeline that Water Development Board has in terms of us getting this consultant on board, and then having them where we would go forward with the contract and then getting them on our board of directors for approval. So those are the things that will happen thereafter. But for sure, right now, we've got a date set in terms of when they're going to review and score the proposals. And it will be just the executive committee who is doing that. Staff will present the items to them, but we don't have any participation on that process in terms of the scoring.
Pointing out that your group is welcome to select the technical consultant and engage, and Rio Grande COG is welcome to engage and start the negotiations with the technical consultant firm, just executing it after you have executed the grant agreement with us. But you can select and negotiate simultaneously.
And so when we, I think that word negotiate is probably very limiting, because we will be receiving the contract from Water Development Board in terms of the expectations and the allowability, things of that nature. Is that correct?
Yeah, the draft contract language between for the grant agreement is on our website, and I can repoint you to that. But then it is your own contract technically between Rio Grande COG and the technical consultant.
Okay, so you won't, and again, I keep leaning on water planning when I probably shouldn't, but you're not going to give a template for contractor to subcontractor.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I will look into that question.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not 100% sure.
Are there any questions for me from the group with regard to the RFQ?
Annette, have you already received any submissions?
I have not.
Okay.
Some regions have received 3, some regions have received just 1. And then they've selected that one, just to give you I got you guys an idea. It's been a range. So.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions on this item? Comments?
I don't think so.
I have a question. What happened if you have not received any submittals from anybody interested? Have you had any inquiries? And what happened if we get no interest?
I'm going to think that if we do not have any interest, then we'll have to resubmit the information and resubmit the request for qualifications to do a second round. But I did receive some, there are some items on the chat that says there is interest. So Sal, maybe we won't be in that predicament, but if we are, for some reason, we will have to just go forward with this process again until we find someone.
Okay, thank you.
Based on, there's people in attendance. If you look at the participants, there are several participants from consulting firms watching this meeting.
I think we'll be okay.
Seems that way. Okay. Then next agenda item, general public comments. Now's the time. If anybody that is in the meeting, if you want to address the flood planning group, please do so at this time.
This is Rick Preto with Console Engineers, and just want to say that we're really excited to submit for the upcoming SOQ this week. One of the larger firms here in El Paso with 50 local employees. You know, we've been looking at this for quite some time and fully vested into hopefully getting an opportunity with you all.
Thank you.
So we know there's at least one. Huh?
Anybody else?
Yeah, I don't see anyone else. I don't see anyone else unmuting or putting in the chat.
All right, then. Then let's move on to the next item. Number 12, consider date and agenda items for our next meeting. Then we'll start with date, please.
So if we do, I'm going to pull up my calendar. So we need 14 days notice for the pre-planning. And so Richard, the executive committee cannot alone decide on the technical assistant. That needs to come back to the general membership, right?
Correct. They give a recommendation.
Okay, so then we're saying that they're going to meet on the 6th of April. We could, is it okay if we look at a meeting the week of the 19th? Because then that will give me the 14 days in advance to post the pre-planning meeting, and then also possibly the extension of our membership if that's what we decide to do. Chairman Martinez, what about the week of the 19th? And Richard, what do you think about that?
You can have it. You can have your.
Richard, somehow your voice is not coming across.
Can you guys hear me?
I see that it's
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine.
Okay.
I think it's me. It was me.
Just point out, like on the agenda item, you can have having the vote of the group, and technically you could have it the same day after the executive committee on the 6th, if you so wish, because that's at least 14 days away if you get the agenda finalized by next Tuesday. So it doesn't have to be 14 days after that executive committee, just pointing it out. So it can be any time next the 30th or after.
All right, so what do you all think?
I'm available on the weekend 19th and earlier. I'll go based on what you feel, the amount of time you need in net to take care of everything.
I mean, we can move it up a week and we can look at the week of the 12th. Do you all want it, like that's a week after the executive committee meets, so we can look at April the 13th? And I don't know, Jeff, I'm trying to remember it. Those days don't work for you.
I already have a commitment on the 13th.
So do I.
Okay. Okay.
The week of the 19th sounds very reasonable.
How about the 20th, Jeff?
That's fine with me.
20th works.
Okay.
So then we'll look at, and I don't know if there will be a need to have an executive committee meeting, but let's just keep it open. If that's the case, I'll have to post that. So let's just, I'd say tentative, just in case we need it. We'll have executive committee at 9:30. And then we can do the general group at 10:30. If that's okay with everyone else.
Sounds good.
And both those times are Mountain.
Thank you, Net.
So if that is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just said thank you. I know that you said that Mountain Time for us folks not in.
Yes, thank you. So then if that's the case, if we've got the date set in terms of agenda items, besides the pre-planning meeting agenda item that we're going to have there, I have no ulterior motive. You can keep your membership as it is. I just want to make sure we get this clarified so I don't mess things up. If you all decide, do you want to have that as an agenda item to extend your membership, or leave that alone?
I think we ought to include it as an agenda item, and then if we don't need it, at least it's there.
Okay, so, and I'm sorry, my internet is not good back here. So you just said to go ahead and list it. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, I'm just suggesting we leave it in. If we don't need it, we can pass by it. If we do need it, then it's there.
Agreed.
Okay. And then the one thing I do need to add though is that I need to put it out there again as an action item for the River Authority. Is that correct, Richard?
Yes, if you haven't filled it, you would need to repost it. If you so choose, yes. Because you guys just filled water utilities and nobody's filled the river authorities yet. Yep.
Correct. Okay, so then agenda item, I have River Authority. I have the extend the membership. We'll have the technical consultant. We'll have updates from Water Development Board.
Would you guys like I don't think I've given the scope of work presentation, but it's about a 15 to 20, sorry, it's probably 20-minute presentation overview of all the 10 tasks of the scope of work.
Oh, yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Yes, please.
I
Thank you.
agree. That's a good item to add, yes.
You guys are finally into getting done with all the administrative stuff and finally getting into the meat of things now. So it's getting exciting.
And don't forget to add the website update if you can, please, too, to the agenda.
Yes. Yes. Do we, I know that, go ahead, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that I know that some people are not as inclined to have new business or old business under the agenda items because that's a bit vague, but do you all want to have that where it could be a catch-all? So like that, I could have then updated you on website in case that there's an oversight, or leave it alone. What do you think, Omar?
I think it's fine. I know that many things come about between when you set an agenda and when we have the meeting. This one neutral item would be where we can fill in all those details would be fine.
So should I just put old business?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. What about you all? What do y'all think?
Sounds good.
Yes. And Ed, also, can
That'll
we
work.
add an item? Can we add an item to get the update from the liaison on the Lower Rio Grande?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Richard, do we know when their next meeting is? For Sarah's benefit?
I don't know when their next meeting is. It's not on our calendar just yet, but Sarah, it will be posted on our schedule page when it is available.
Okay, great.
And I can send you the contact for the sponsor to get on their emailing list as well.
Okay, wonderful. And I'm just supposed to attend. Am I supposed to give them any, specific message time, or
No,
like the next time they have a meeting?
Again, just listen in to see if anything that they're discussing affects the Upper Rio, and advocate for the Lower Rio if anything they're discussing affects. And unless they might have an agenda item where it says liaisons update for their own liaisons, and that might be a chance for you to speak up and say hi as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
Richard, have they designated a liaison to us yet?
Yes. I pulled up the contact. She's not in the meeting right now, but
I think Omar was going to talk to that. I do have her name also right here.
Vanessa Rosales Herrera.
Yes,
She was designated as their liaison to you guys.
What was her name again, Richard? Vanessa what?
Vanessa Rosales Herrera.
Okay.
What would be, in my opinion, what would be great is on the agenda item where Sarah will get to give us an update. If this lady is also in the meeting, if she can also take that same agenda item and talk about what's happening in the Lower Rio Grande.
Okay, I'll put that on the agenda. Okay, well, you guys just created a long agenda.
That's okay. Just a question, has everybody completed open meetings?
I still need, I'll need Mr. Rodriguez. I'll check in with him. I don't think he was able to make the meeting. but I did receive from everyone else.
Okay, so we're close. Okay.
All right, any other possible agenda items?
Just one thing, I just want to say that for when I'm attending the Region 15 meetings, I would like if there's anything, any update that you guys would specifically like me to give them, I'd like you to provide me with that information, because I'd rather give them, you know, what you think is important rather than just, you know, kind of a general overview. So if there's anything you'd specifically like me to mention just in the future, if you wouldn't mind letting me know what that is, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
All right, so next agenda item, number 13, adjourn. I'd like to entertain a motion. Who's going to take this role?
So moved.
So,
Seconded.
Jeff. Okay.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Richard. Thank you, guys. Thank you,
Thank you.
Sarah.
Adios.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.